right, guys. Shooting on a Sunday because I was not here yesterday. I was at my grandfather's. Told everyone on Friday, where I basically did 5 podcasts. So I was telling my mom, my grandfather, and I talked for probably
should have recorded
6
it
hours.
while you were there. Should have recorded it.
That would have been a good podcast. But
Yes,
one of these days, I have to get Papa down here for.
Or you need a portable studio.
I need a portable studio, yeah, because I don't want to do audio's annoying, and then maybe we might have to for that one, but it's definitely worth a good sit down with Papa.
And Lolly.
Yeah, Grandma. Yeah, we have to figure that one out.
It's a whole different kind of good podcast.
Yeah, it is doable. I have to figure out how we do it, but I think you might be able to do it off a Mac, but. Whatever. Either way, yeah, so today we're kind of a day behind. So as I told you guys, this one won't be out till Wednesday. So I don't know what's going to happen between now and Wednesday. But
it's a mystery.
It's a mystery. Schedules are a little twisted right now. But anyway, big one for you this week. A lot of topics. Mom's got like 12. I got 4.
I do.
We're going to be here for a while. So
I do have a life.
I'm going to let you start it off because mine are mostly video game stuff like last week, but I got a couple
My first one is an article about New York City's Yeshiva University. Which
the
is
Jewish university, Mom?
Yes.
She told me before.
Orthodox Jewish University. They disbanded all their student groups in a last-ditch attempt to stop the LGBTQ club from forming. After the Supreme Court
I saw this. Yes, I saw this today.
Said that they must allow it. What's a little misleading about the headline of this article was, if you read deeper into it, it's not really that Supreme Court didn't say they have to allow it. What they said was it was a procedural issue. They said we're not going to lift the order that says you have to allow them to have their club. What we're telling you is you have to go back to the state Supreme Court, have them do a quick review, or them to put the temporary restraining order in. If they don't do that, then you can come back to us. So it's a little misleading. But it is an important ruling down the line if it gets to the Supreme Court because it reflects how religious universities are going to be treated. So the Yeshiva University, unfortunately, they had to ban all groups because the Pride group is requesting being recognized as an official club of the university, which goes against their religious beliefs. So they said no, and of course they're now suing. And because of this order that's been put in that says you must allow them to form if you have other clubs, they said that we're not going to do other clubs. We're going to cancel it for or suspend them for a period of time.
Yeah. It has to be done, right? You can't, there's no, you can't, how do I put this? So, yeah, if the government's requiring you to not accommodate everyone or forcing you to accommodate one person, you can't pick and choose, right? So they just said...
Well, that's what they're saying. As long as you have these other groups, you can't exclude them temporarily until there's a decision. So it's being appealed, and that's why when the Supreme Court regarding the temporary restraining order, they turned around and said, well, we're going to lift that. You have to get that restraining order from the appeals court or go back to the state Supreme Court. What I have a problem with, and this is more of a general issue I have, when you apply to the Yeshiva University,
one that's known for
you accept the
Jewish,
fact, right? It isn't as though there's no other university that an LGBTQ person can attend. Okay,
right.
So coming in there, first of all, you don't have to have a club to go to a university, right?
Right.
You can, many students, unfortunately, go 4 or 5 years and they never join a club. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but that's an extracurricular activity, okay? And I am finding when I see these stories through the years, and Catholic universities have fallen victim to this as well, they purposely choose these schools because they want to force them to accept these groups. Now, they've announced that we're very receptive of all our LGBTQ students, and we're very proud of them, etc., etc. They just don't feel that sanctioning such a club reflects the values in the Torah, and that's what their school is based on.
I'm just thinking, like, when I went to Scranton, right, that's a Jesuit college, and you have to take theology and philosophy.
Yes.
2 times each, I believe, in your 4 years. It's been a while, but I'm wondering if you're not religious, like if you're not a Catholic, I wonder if
It doesn't get waived.
It doesn't get
when I
waived.
went
So
there.
no one ever complained about it or anything either. So kind of tells you how much time's changed in 6 years.
Well, it's similar to the Colorado cake baker who is
That's
literally
right.
being harassed. He offers alternatives. He says there's plenty of other bakers that you can go to. But that's not good enough.
You have to explain that story for people that don't.
So
like that story,
there's
or don't know that
a
story.
Christian baker in Colorado who was sued, went all the way to the Supreme Court, I believe, and they ruled that he does not have to bake a cake for a same-sex wedding because it goes against his beliefs. And part of the process and what came out was when these people came to him specifically for this cake, knowing he was a Christian baker, he said, here are other bakers that do an excellent job.
It's funny because they complain about that, but when COVID happened, people complained that private companies shouldn't have to deal with the rights of, or what the government had to say. So he had the right as a private company to turn away any clientele he wanted.
Right.
And then when COVID happens, it's, you don't have the right to do that anymore.
Right.
You don't have the right to stay open even though.
Right.
Yeah. That's funny.
And what's interesting is after that judgment, so this person that didn't have a lot of money spent a fortune fighting this all the way to, I'm pretty sure he went to the Supreme Court, and minimally went to a state court. He fought it all the way, won, and they said, you know what, you can't force him to do it. Literally the next day, a lawyer calls him and wants a Satan cake baked or something like that, just so she can sue again. And I look at this something like a yeshiva university, okay? It's a religious university.
Right.
They don't accept LGBTQ clubs because it doesn't reflect what their religion is about. That's not good enough. Somebody has to go there and they have to fight it. It's their right to do that. It's their right to fight it. But at the end of the day, now all the students have been penalized. There will be no clubs until this is decided.
Yeah, that's just a crappy world we live in. On that one.
It's becoming a little bit obvious what the
there's
issue
a certain
is.
level of the issue is not really the religious belief as much as it is just trying to, one, attention, and two, attention as in you're trying to be the hero in something where you're not going to be the hero. And the other one was
well, they will be the hero if they're forced, if the court forces Yeshiva University as a religious entity to have to allow this group, which goes against their religious right as a university. Now, the issue at hand also, which I'm not going to get into, but is it a religious corporation or is it a religious church or blah, 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 blah.
Because you have something called separation of church and state, which means that the government technically isn't supposed to have a hand in any religious affairs.
Well,
it's line's a little drawn there, though, because I know.
But bigger than that, you have the right to religious freedom in this country.
Right.
Because what's next is going to be religious groups are going to demand that they get married in the Catholic Church. It's not good enough that they got marriage. You know, they legally are married. Okay, fine. Now they're pushing because now they want to be married in the Catholic Church.
Right.
Or Christian church even. And that's not acceptable. And they're going to want to push it as a civil rights issue. And that's where, once again, you're stepping on the religious rights of one group is infringed to appease, I don't even know if you call it religious rights of another group, other than they want to change the faith that exists.
Right.
And it's becoming, there's no real benefit anymore. You know, there's other schools that somebody can go to. You don't have to go to the Yeshiva University. There's plenty of other universities that are acceptable of all groups. But no, it has to be the Yeshiva. They have to come in. They have to change it. And what happens is the school overall, the other students have to pay a price for that. Yeah. Some of those clubs may agree. They may say, yeah, let them have their own. Point is, now the university's in a bind where they have to say, we've got to support our religious faith. We may have to get rid of the clubs. So. Yeah,
that's. I can see how that could be a real problem in a couple of years with other schools.
It's on appeal, so we'll see what. That's why it's very important when it finally does get to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says separation of church and state, or separation of state, and also religious freedom. There are plenty of other universities you can go to. Doesn't have to be that university.
I wonder why that person went to whoever's complaining.
It's a group, but yeah.
A group. I wonder why that group is at the. I wonder if they're LGBTQ
because
and Jewish.
They don't allow it. That's why they went. That's my point.
You can make that argument. What if they are Jewish? What if they're Jewish LGBTQ?
You don't have to go to yeshiva if you're Jewish. You could go to
Right,
any university.
but what if that was the only school they got into? You see what I'm saying? Like, what? I don't know what the credentials are of that university. Like, what do you have to requirements? I mean,
Well,
but
it's possible, but here's the question: if you're that devout a Jew that you have to go to an Orthodox Jewish university,
good point. Yeah,
you're really not in tune to the whole homosexual LGBTQ.
yeah, they're very
I'll say
not for that.
agenda. I mean, for lack of a better word,
Right.
You got to really wonder.
Why would you
devout.
go there? Because you know you're going to
Exactly.
be there. That's a good point. I didn't realize that it was Orthodox Jewish. I thought you just meant it was like.
Oh, no. It's Yeshiva University. It's a strict Orthodox Jewish. Now, the Jesuit colleges, in my opinion, have become watered down, almost to the point of being non-Catholic. I think some of them should be stripped of their Catholic charter. But that's, their choice to do that, and if they want to include these groups.
All comes down to money in the end, mother.
Yeah.
For these schools.
Well, I don't even know. I mean, I give
Intentions.
Yeshiva credit for
Intender.
standing their ground, because a lot of schools would not do that nowadays.
Yeah, I'm sure people are going to complain more, not so much about the people, I mean students are going to complain more, not so much about the issue, but as much as they can't do their clubs. They can't
Well, that's
be
what
part
I'm
of their
saying,
clubs.
and they feel bad doing that, but they said until we have a decision, then we're forced to allow them to have it, and it goes against our religious
At the same
beliefs to
time, the
support
students who go there probably understand.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a pretty... that's a dilemma. That's definitely a dilemma to say the least.
Well, and they make a point of saying we have great pride in our LGBTQ students. It's not like they're saying you can't come here.
Right.
What they're saying is we can't sanction it as because it goes against our religious beliefs. We can't recognize it as a club, but as a human being, which is the stance of the Catholic Church also. I mean, every person is welcomed in our church. You just can't come in and say, but I don't like your rules about my lifestyle and it has to change.
Right.
That's not how it works,
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's a whole other podcast.
So
for
hold on,
hours
real
and hours.
fast though. So beginning of that story, I guess I missed something. What are they trying? What is the LGBTQ trying to get?
Club.
They want their own club.
They want their own
Within the school. Okay,
school
that's-
recognized club. The YU Pride Club. Pride Alliance, it's called. Club.
Why you Pride
Alliance.
Yeah, I can see why that would be a problem.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this though: are there any? I mean, not that you would know, but would there be a Muslim club at the Jewish place?
Oh, I doubt that.
Yeah. Like, so, like,
have
what
to
about
go on.
Catholic? If you're a Catholic guy that goes there, like you say, you have a group of Catholic kids there. Group Catholic, do they have their own club? Because then it would make sense if the LGBTQ club wants to.
I don't know, and they don't specify every club that they have, if they have a Catholic club. But being a Catholic is not against the Torah. Like,
Well,
it's
right,
not
right.
against you're
That's
not
true.
as a practicing Catholic.
Well, I guess the
Accepting
real
Christ as a
question I'm
savior
asking
is
here-
not anti-Jewish. It's just they don't accept.
I'm going
that.
to take it one further. What's the point of a club? And here's where you have a chess club. You're playing sport. You're playing chess.
Yes.
You have a basketball club. If you're not on a sports team, you want intramurals, I guess. Newspaper club, whatever. What would like a Catholic one be? Would you just freaking read the Bible together? Is that
No,
what
sometimes it's service oriented as a Catholic group. You
right,
you do
so the service is
our-
allowed, right?
Right.
You
Well,
just put a
think of
label on
campus
it. So let me-
ministries.
well, hold
Campus
on.
ministries is like a Catholic
Right,
group.
but what if I was part of the LGBTQ club and
Yeah.
we were helping people, like just in, like it was just a charity sort of thing?
Right, but
see what I'm saying?
It's not about what they're doing. It's about what they represent. And they represent
So the representation's the problem.
Right.
Gotcha.
Sexual identity issues,
Huh.
gender dysphoria. They're representing something that the Orthodox Jewish faith does not accept as being a valid issue. It's a problem for them. Technically, the homosexuals are not a problem for Catholic Church, but their lifestyle is considered a sin. So you're welcomed in the church, but the church can't sanction it as being a good thing. You can't have a gay marriage in the Catholic Church because that's considered officiating a sin. We can't. It's counterproductive to what
Right.
we do.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's or Christian too. I say Catholic, but Christian also. So that's the issue, and the problem I have with it is anybody's welcome to try, but why do you have to go to the
Yeah,
yeshiva?
you're probably better off. Yeah, that's a fair
It's
point.
they're making an issue, and to your point, some of them are probably getting their 5 minutes of fame, by standing
Yeah,
out,
making
and doing what they have to do. But
Making a choice or decision in that regard.
right, if you really believe in something like that, it winds up being counterproductive because you're trying to push something that They wouldn't like it if a religious group came and pushed their LGBTQ school and said, you have to respect our group that believes that LGBTQ people are
But I
sinners.
thought they were the most inclusive.
Right. See what I mean? It
It's a
doesn't work
double-edged
both
sword.
ways, and it doesn't look
But
right.
that's what I mean. I feel like the mentality wasn't, I'm going to go to this school to cause a problem. I think it's more like, hey, there's actually a surprising amount of kids here who are LGBTQ. Let's make a club. And the school was like, well, we can't allow
Oh, you
that.
naive person.
I just think about it though. You're not going to make your whole life decision on what college you go to based
Yes,
on that.
people do that. People do
that's
that.
just stupidity.
It's becoming more of an issue because they're singling out. Think about it. These people didn't even live in Colorado. The lawyer that called up, she has to make an issue because this person won, the baker won, and she's got to keep pounding that person until he is forced to accept LGBTQ issues.
God,
Who cares about a baker in Colorado?
So you think, hold on, you think that someone would waste 4 years at a university just to start this?
Mm-hmm. I do.
I'll take your word for it.
I do because they'll make a name for themselves, especially if it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, right? There are thousands of kids that go through colleges every year that nobody even knows who they are. These people, nobody's going to care about their grades or what they studied. They're going to graduate being the social justice warriors that took down Yeshiva University and forced them to accept something. What did you win? That's the point. What did you win? Another group had to cave to the LGBT community. And again, why? There's plenty of other universities out there that they can go to, but there's no drama there because those groups already have these organizations.
Right.
Because because these are warriors, social justice warriors. They're pegged to go to these schools specifically to make waves and force these clubs to happen. It'll happen again at other universities.
Speaking of school, I saw this one because I was talking to someone about this the other day. Gen Z never learned to read cursive. I forgot that they don't know cursive anymore. And now, this is my problem. Like, here's my mom's notes. For those of you
My scratch notes.
yeah. We only write in script in this family. I can't imagine. I don't even think I could do print anymore. I've been practicing my signature, but like, I don't think.
Yeah, you used to have a very nice script.
I don't.
But it was very.
What do you mean by used to?
Well, I mean, you don't write it
But like,
anymore. Nobody really
I
writes
don't even
much
think
anymore.
I could do print. I guess I could do print, but I was just thinking, like, how do kids sign stuff?
Well, I think your brother does not use script.
Disgusting.
Only for his signature. Yeah. Okay, don't.
It's not bad. Not bad.
No, people gonna forge. Keep hitting that. They're gonna forge your name.
My mom keeps freaking slamming the mic. Yeah, good. It's my own font, so no one's good. But that's what I mean. When you're signing stuff, like business-wise, I mean, what do you do? Like, how
Print.
do you can print now? So when it says your signature, what
print
the hell
is a
does that mean?
signature, but it's easy to copy.
Right.
So there's no real benefit to printing something because anybody could
I'm
quote
pretty
unquote
sure it's
sign your name.
impossible to.
Back in your grammar school, your principal at the time wanted to do away with handwriting class. And enough teachers brought him information that said, and it is scientifically proven that it's part of your brain wiring.
Yeah.
Every now and then they come. Well, the other idea was, as a matter of fact, I think it was your grandfather who said years ago, well, they don't need to know script because everything's being done by computer, right? And people don't write much anymore. I remember talking about that. But there is definite brain functioning and motor skills associated with writing in script and being able to read in script. So there's something to be said for it. But I want to say 10 years ago, they had this great idea that kids didn't need to know how to spell.
What? Oh, yeah,
Yes.
because of autocorrect.
Right. You don't need to know how to
I
spell.
do remember that.
But there is mental training that's involved and memory issues and word associations and learning by having developing brains practice the art of spelling in their language. So by eliminating that, you wind up, again, it's this constant push to get human beings to be computer-based. That's the ultimate goal here.
Yeah, I mean it has to be, but I was very
Transhumanism, okay?
very
That could be-
surprised that like the amount of people that don't know script.
Mhm.
I feel like I have my own language now, because no one could read my handwriting except for like older people.
Yeah, young people can't, which is another reason why I think it's kind of neat for young people to know it, because it's becoming a lost art, and it's almost like you have your own secret language.
I miss the notebooks. Remember the notebooks that would have the letters in it, and you trace the letter, and it'd be like, hey, do it 10 more times?
Do you remember doing the whipped cream?
No.
Yeah, when they were training you, there was whipped cream on the table, and you had to go through the whipped cream to do the swirls, so you could see the swirls. You remember doing that?
No, I don't remember that at all.
You did that when you were working on your dexterity for your writing. Kenny did the same thing.
But yeah, it's definitely considered I think it's going to become a lost art eventually, but I think it's just too calligraphy, right?
The calligraphy's fancy with an edge,
fancy writing. I feel like script's going to become a calligraphy rather than like an actual handwriting.
Well, what's interesting is the explosion of dysgraphia in kids.
That's true.
Okay, now when one of your brothers,
dysgraphia,
who will be,
you gotta.
Dysgraphia is the inability to write. Okay, so your brain can't tell your hand what to do.
I thought it was the inability to read as well. Like you can't read.
That's dyslexia.
No, dyslexia is when you reverse
your letters
things.
And you can't read.
Which is the one that literally... Oh, illiterate is the...
Dysilliterate. Yeah. And dyscalculia is when you have math problems, you juxtapose numbers and whatnot. Dysgraphia is with your inability to make the brain-hand connection, right? So one of your brothers, when he was younger, was terrible, sloppy. And the teachers would always complain. And I would say, give it back to him and make him do it again. And they never wanted to be bothered, so he kept getting bad grades. And then finally, I don't know what triggered it, but he had to slow down. And he has beautiful handwriting now. So they had already labeled him as, well, he has dysgraphia. He can't do it.
Really?
Baloney. Make them do it when they're younger and correct it when they're younger. And you watch how fast they'll fix it. If they have to sit down and miss recess until they write it properly, you watch how fast a kid will figure out how to write it properly, because they want to go outside and have fun. If you let it slide, they have no incentive to fix it.
They'll never learn. Yeah. I just thought it was interesting because when it comes to signing stuff, because Kenny and I had to do signatures, and it was all, you had to do like the trackpad pen. I was like, how is this?
How many documents now will have an auto signature?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was like, what the hell's the point of that?
Exactly. So it's really more or less linked to your accepting the document and whatever email you put in there. Again, it's transhumanism. This in a small scale. They want to get rid of the human existence and make us all computer based.
You got another one?
You want your Ukraine update?
Yeah, we'll take a Ukraine update.
Okay. As of this week, another $600 million was sent in equipment. And
yeah, we knew that, right? 600 million.
No, this week another one. 600 million more went this week. We're almost at 16 billion total sent from the U.S. to Ukraine.
That sounds low. I thought it wasn't like 2 months ago.
That's
2 months ago, not even. Hold on, I want to see that one. I feel like it's more than that because I thought we said 300 billion or 60 billion. How much?
So an additional $600 million in military aid from the U.S. after sending $2.9 billion. So they have now spent almost $16 billion in weapons and equipment.
Wow, I thought it was much higher. I thought I saw one for like 300
Well, in
billion
weapons and equipment. I heard we were sending more money for people, but, you know.
It says since January, so this can't be right. We want since... Oh, wait. Since January. So 13 billion since January. God, is that really when that started? That started back in January? Couldn't be.
I thought it was the start of the summer.
That's what I thought, too. So
but maybe we were sending money before then.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just sending it for the hell of it.
That's interesting. See, I thought it was a lot more. I mean, don't get me wrong.
It says the latest package of weapons systems brings the total amount of U.S. aid to Ukraine to nearly $15.9 billion since President Joe Biden took office.
Since President Joe Biden took
office. So, not when he started, obviously, because he's been, almost 2 years. But
right. How much UK has only given $1.5 billion. Yes, we take the brunt of it.
We always pay the most.
What else? That was a quick
my
one.
other clip was actually from, or my other notes. Last week I promised to let you know. Remember I said I'm not sure what the king or queen's powers are?
Oh, yeah, we talked about
I
this.
looked that up. So, king...
hold on, for those who didn't watch last week. So basically we were talking about how the queen we were talking about, since the death of the queen, we were talking about what powers that the queen or the royal family actually have.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because they have a democracy over there where you have the whips.
Well, they have parliament. They
Parliament,
have parties, and they have
the
constitutional monarchy.
Right, they have that. So what's the point of the royal family? And it's not like our presidency here. So
right. Well, technically, the king the king, because the queen is dead.
Right.
He appoints the prime minister and the other ministers. He opens every new session of parliament. Right.
He
so we
opens
have
every new session.
So there's a ceremony when Parliament comes back from vacation and they start a new session, or if for some reason Parliament is shut down and they start a new session, it's his job to open it, allow them to go. He gives the royal assent to bills, okay, making them laws. So you ask that question. He really doesn't have the power to veto anything.
Right.
But technically, he signs off and agrees to the laws that comes out of Parliament.
Oh, right. So that's what I thought. That's what I figured. He
yes.
kind of. So
but it's ceremonial because I don't think.
Yeah, he goes.
I read something that said he does have veto power, but for the king or queen to use it would cause such trouble in the democracy because that's like stifling the will of the people if it's coming from Parliament. And he chairs the Privy Council, and he approves the order of the council. So the Privy Council, I looked that up. Basically, because you have commonwealths and the UK is made up, like we have states, they have other countries, Ireland, Scotland. Those leaders then come to this Privy Council with the king, the queen, the king.
Right.
And I don't know how often it meets, but it's called the Privy Council, and they sit down and discuss what's going on in their countries and recent legislation and whatnot, and the king presides over that, which is, they call it the body of advisors.
Did you figure out the House of Lords? We talked about that, remember?
Yeah, the House of Lords is basically your made up the lords and landowners.
So it is still.
It does exist. It has some powers, but really, it used to be the more powerful chamber
because they were the most wealthy people in Europe, really.
Right, but over time, over time, more and more power has gone to the people, the Commonwealth. So it's the House of Commons that has the power. Right.
So the House of Lords is still nobility from there. Is
it still? It's a mix, but it's mostly
So it's not really the lords anymore.
Right. It's a higher people that definitely have some elitist power.
Because nowadays, like, there's companies that will sell you land. And it's like a block of land, like a foot, but it's enough to make you like considered a lord or whatever.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
I forget what the company's called. A lot of podcasts have it, but you can literally they'll just here's 10 feet of land.
Yeah.
Like a piece of grass.
Just
and
so you can call yourself a lord.
Lord, yeah. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, you remember the scene from The Patriot where the ranger was talking to General Cornwallis, and they're talking about after the American Revolution, there's going to be all this land here. And for those of us who don't go back to the UK, because he was kind of a scoundrel, he wasn't a gentleman fighter, he said, we're going to divide up this country, and you could become the lord of the land.
Right.
And he said, tell me about Ohio, thinking that if he goes after and breaks all the rules of the British gentlemanly way of fighting, he can't go back. He'll be dishonorable. So he'll stay in the UK or in America, and he'll take over all of Ohio.
It's been so long since I've seen The Patriot. There's only 2 scenes I remember from that. It's the opening one with his kids, where
Aim small, miss small.
Yeah, aim small, miss small, where he just destroys them with the axe.
Right.
And when they're melting down metal for the musket bullets.
Yeah, his sons.
And the carrying
soldiers.
of the flag, yeah.
He melts down the soldiers that the son was killed.
God, what a good movie. I have to watch that one.
It is a classic.
Do you have another one along those lines? Because mine's kind of a complete...
Along those lines? No, the only other one mine's about cannabis.
Go for it.
You want the cannabis
one?
one?
Yeah, we can talk cannabis.
All right, so the cannabis one I thought was very interesting. The topic was cannabis is the new Oxycontin. And they specifically spoke with people in Colorado. So Colorado legalized cannabis
First one's to legalize
in 2012. Right. Yeah. Now, what these people are seeing, and I've heard this not just from Colorado, people that are working in the field and treating people, it's creating psychotic episodes in people. Okay, just your basic cannabis. So they're seeing this in people that have no other drugs in their system.
Can I pause for a second?
Yeah.
Medical cannabis or no?
That's the issue. Okay. It's both.
It's both.
Yes. So in the 1960s, your average pot cannabis, the THC in it, which is the chemical.
So
the
THC is the non-addictive.
No, that's the addictive
that's the
side.
addictive. I'm sorry, I forget.
Right.
So in marijuana, you have CBD, THC. Is that it? I forget what makes up. But THC is, people used to have, I knew kids in college that would do this. You can get the derivative of THC as like what looks like a baking sheet. It's disgusting yellow stuff that I knew kids that would just smoke that.
Well,
I have to believe that was not good for you.
It's been a while now.
Yeah.
So in the 60s, that THC was less than 2%. In the 1990s, it was about 5% THC in that they were
5%.
producing. Okay. In 2015, it was over 20%. Okay, the THC. Now, this is online and dispensaries. There's basically no actual plant material in the cannabis anymore. So, what they're talking about is cannabis is becoming.
Well, that would make sense, right? Because you don't get. If I went out and ate a cannabis plant, you're not going to get that much from the actual plant itself.
Well, no. What happens is they take the pulverized marijuana, they put it in a tube, they run butane, propane, ethanol, or
disgusting.
carbon dioxide to separate the THC out of it. That then becomes a wax, which is about 70
That's what I
to
was
80%.
talking about. That wax was that.
Right.
It's like a sheet of yellow. It looks like almost maple syrup.
Right. That's how they make the dabs. Okay, so that's your wax.
My mom's saying all these drug terms. I'm like, oh my god.
70 to 80% THC. That's a huge amount.
70 to 80, yeah.
Right. Now, it goes into an oven where it then becomes 95 to 99% THC. Okay? Now, it's legal and it's accessible even to young people because it's those dabs used in vaping.
Yep.
Young people have access
People
to
don't really. That's like hardcore vaping. Like that's the real vapes. There's two types of vaping, in my opinion. This is not fact.
They're saying, though, your standard THC
Yeah.
is 3, 4, and 5 times stronger, okay, than what you had.
Right. But
10,
hold on, I
15
got to
years
pause
ago.
it. So there's two different types of vape pens, right? You have the ones that you get at the store, which are like the cigarette kind. You know, with the, I forgot what they're called, the ones that got banned, the Juuls.
Yeah.
That's not THC. The vaping that they're talking about, and this was popular when I was in college. I don't really see kids with these anymore, but it's like a battery pack. Mm-hmm. And you take it, it's like a whole contraption. You would take it apart. It has like a cotton swab thing in it. Put it, whatever's in it, oils, whatever, and that's where you would get that THC. So kids would easily put the dab pens through that rather than the nicotine or flavored stuff. It used to be juices. Like it literally came as like do you remember those baby bottle pops?
They had the flavorings.
It was
and all
like that.
stuff.
So you would put that in the. It literally looked like a coil. I wish I had.
But I think the issue is what they're using in general, not just in special situations, is 3, 4, and 5 times stronger. And they're using it multiple times in a day.
Oh yeah.
So their idea is that 35% will have a psychosis meltdown of people that use these over time.
I always wonder what the definition of there's a lot of psychosis breakdown. There's levels to that. So.
Well, the stories in it that I read are frightening. And point being, they had no other drug in their system but cannabis. Okay? So there's a writer, his name is Alec Berenson. He's been doing a lot with COVID, right? That's how he made his name. But I knew him, I started reading him a while ago. He was a New York Times writer, I believe New York Times, but a liberal writer. I didn't read a lot of his stuff, but he had a great article. His wife worked in the prison system. And she came home one day and said, it's really amazing how many more violent crimes we're seeing in the prison system. I think she was a psychiatrist or somehow involved with treating the drugs and the criminals. And she goes, and they all either started with marijuana before they moved on to the next drug and then went out. Those are the ones that were more violent than the ones that were just on other drugs. Now, this is just anecdotal. She was seeing it on a regular basis. So he started doing this research. So I saw this about 5 or 6 years ago when I saw his article. And now they're saying it. So Colorado's a great test case because they legalized it now. So it's 2012. And they're seeing the effects of legalizing it, where it's not just you're legalizing marijuana from the 1960s and 90s. This stuff is strong. And young people are having psychotic episodes, meaning pulling out knives, killing other people, doing damage. One guy ran into a street and it was just on cannabis, but they're smoking it on a regular or using it on a regular basis.
And very high dosages.
Doesn't take much if you're doing this multiple times in a day.
Well, you said it's still 3 to 5 times more THC than it used to be.
It's 3, 4, 5 times stronger than it used to be.
So that would make sense.
And you're using it multiple times in a day. It's legalized.
Yeah.
It's not like there's nothing prohibiting anybody, the average person now. It's not just a junkie on the street anymore. People, and to your point, so 35% psychotic will go to a psychosis. They think 1 out of every
35%?
35% are having psychotic episodes will eventually have a full psychosis meltdown. They are seeing permanent schizophrenia and bipolar in 1 out of every 20 user.
See, I believe it. It's just...
And what's scary is, based on what you're saying, it's considered medicinal. And there's no limit
well, that's
on the
what I was
going
to say, though.
THC.
I don't know if... I don't know in medicine. I have to believe it's a little more regulated than anything else.
It is not.
But CBD is what we, like, just... That's like whenever I hear medical, very rarely have I, if I ever, have I seen THC. It's always CBD.
Right.
So I don't know what medical THC would be. Like I didn't even think they used the THC in the medical industry. Medical THC.
That's not true. It comes in forms of. I'll tell you the breakdown.
You can tell a stoner made this one, right? What is the difference between THC and CBD? While CBD can come from either hemp or marijuana, it's often derived from hemp in order to avoid the addiction of large amounts of THC. THC, on the other hand, is derived from marijuana. You just gave me the same...
Yeah, the same answer.
Thanks, dude. You ever wrote that one?
At a dispensary, there's no distinction between cannabis products...
Okay, that's a dispensary, though.
Right? Made to be consumed for fun, and ones created for their supposed healing properties. You walk into a store, it's the exact same product. If you have a med card, you just pay less tax. That's all the medical card does for you.
Oh, interesting. Because when I hear medical, I think physically that the hospital gives you.
Well, the array of no, you don't get it for the hospital.
Well,
you
the
get
hospital,
it anywhere.
well, the
you get
hospital,
it a doctor or anybody.
Yeah, but the hospital, I always thought had a certain level of it on hand for certain like not emergencies, but it's a different kind of. I don't know, strand. I'm not a stoner or anything, but...
Well, the array of products is that you can buy joint, flour, vape, concentrate, a cookie, brownie, corn nut, caramel corn.
But that's not medical. That's not... You think a doctor's going, hey, I prescribed you 4 cookies? I don't believe that's medical.
No, this is what you can get online at weedmaps.com.
Yeah, so that's just a dispensary.
It's delivered to your doorstep. These products are also sold as medicine, even though none of them is FDA approved.
Yeah,
there are only 4 cannabis-based drugs that have received FDA authorization, all of which require prescriptions. And although it's illegal for anyone without a medical degree to offer advice, dispensary bud tenders do it all the time.
So that makes sense then. That's kind of what I said. That stuff's regulated because it's not FDA approved.
Well,
so you can't medically be giving people... Like a doctor's not going to prescribe, take 2 cookies. So there's got to be certain limits to how much is in medical. For it to be prescribed. Unless the doctor, I guess, prescribes, hey, you need X amount of THC. Because if a dispensary's doing it, then yeah, and you just come in with a medical card, they go, hey, can you... If anything,
the other thing that saves you is the taxes, basically, having a medical card.
Right.
So anyone can go in and get
the
this
dispensary, though, can say, oh, the doctor prescribed you this, we can give you twice the dosage, and it's way better. So that's on the dispensary, not the doctor. See what I'm saying? So the doctors aren't saying, or hospital isn't saying, hey, go to this place, get as much.
Well, I'm trying to see if they...
Because CBD is what is used a lot more. So CBD is the non-addictive version. So that's more so of like a relief pain, usually, for when you take CBD.
Okay, and since marijuana is still considered a Schedule 1 controlled substance by the federal government, there's no such thing as a prescription for medical cannabis. Instead, you get a recommendation from a physician. The doctor's recommendation typically has no expiration, no dose, no duration, and no change across state lines. It's basically take as much as you want, as often as you want, until you feel what you want. Colorado has tightened the rules around medical cards, but only for 18 to 20-year-olds in an effort to mitigate drug dealing in high schools.
Yeah.
Okay? It's very loose. And just as an aside, so we don't have to spend too much time on it, but as a teenager, and this is where it's scary because people think it's medication, right? It does treat certain things, but they haven't studied it enough.
So one of the problems that we have the most, I'm going to cut you off, sorry, but
That's okay.
The problem with anything medical, marijuana, same with Advils, the leaves, not so much the leaves, but you're not fixing the problem. Or cortisol shots, that's a great example.
Mm-hmm.
You're not actually healing anything.
Right.
So let's say you pull your back real bad. You take medical marijuana or Advil or Aleve or a cortisol shot. That doesn't mean that you're healing. That just means that you don't feel the pain.
Right.
Huge difference.
That's a different kind of problem.
Yeah.
As a teenager, Kevin Bright suffered from depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
He sounds familiar, right, with this generation. He started smoking pot around 15 to self-medicate. As his tolerance built up, he started using THC concentrates.
Yeah.
The stuff made from these high-potency waxes and oils, which was legal and easily accessible in the Bay Area suburb. His personality began to unravel, his father said. He was constantly irate. He attempted suicide several times. Once by ingesting pills, once by trying to hang himself, another time by driving his car into the bay. Then he began developing full-blown delusions, imagining that the FBI was after him. He would scream at his parents in gibberish, and at 29, he finally put a plastic bag over his head and breathed nitrous oxide through a tube until he suffocated to death. He had a hardcore addiction, but in his imagination, he was just taking medicine. So this is where it becomes scary. They act like this is something to treat a problem.
This is the problem that I have with this whole thing, though. We're calling it marijuana. But at that point, it's not marijuana, it's THC.
He started with marijuana and became immune to that, so he stepped
You're
into
trying to make
THC.
the argument of the gateway drug, right? This is the typical gateway drug argument.
No, this is the opposite. It used to be a gateway drug to the stronger stuff. This is the stronger stuff now.
THC is the stronger stuff. It's a derivative.
Okay, but they're looking
it
at
comes from the
thing.
same plant.
Right.
You're right, but I would never say that smoking marijuana and taking THC are the same thing. Like just like how I wouldn't say heroin is the same as crystal meth. You see what I'm saying? Like it's so derivative that it's hard to say.
I think the point is marijuana has stronger THC component now.
Well, you turn it into something stronger.
No, I think marijuana as it exists now, yes, you can make it stronger, but I think what they market as medical marijuana has a very high concentration of THC in it. That's my understanding, and people aren't realizing it. It's not like the old.
You see what I'm saying though? It's not.
Younger.
It's not plant to person. Like see, you're doing stuff to it to make it stronger. See what I'm saying? So that's why it's not the basic.
That might be true.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they're even basic isn't even an issue anymore because it's just an automatic stronger cannabis.
So here's one. Let me one up you then, or like kind of not throw it back, but. Cocaine can kill you. It's not, but when you put fentanyl in it, that's what's going to kill you, right? Because fentanyl is a strong drug.
Well, over time, cocaine.
Sure, but you can make the same thing with food, right? If you keep eating, you're gradually killing yourself.
Right, but technically, cocaine is not legalized yet. We could say.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, same thing with heroin. Same thing with
It's
opiates.
tough because I'm trying to make the THC from a basic level of marijuana is just as strong as it used to be in the 80s. Once you start messing with it and you add stuff to it to make it stronger, then it's not just marijuana anymore. See what I'm saying?
Right, and that's the point. You're not getting the same marijuana that people had 10 years ago.
Exactly.
It's a stronger marijuana because of that THC component.
So I can't say that marijuana is the fault here. The people that are going out of their way to add chemicals to it to make it stronger is the problem.
Well, okay, fine, but you're not getting the old marijuana. This is the product now.
Right, this is the base
model. That's like
model.
saying, you're making cocaine stronger. It doesn't matter. That's the cocaine that's out there.
Yeah.
And people used to say, well, it's a gateway drug. It leads to heroin. That was the story, and it was true. Because marijuana wasn't, creating psychosis. Now, this has become the drug, and the title it's the new Oxycontin. You don't need it as a gateway. It's the drug. People are having psychotic episodes just from the level of THC. Yeah, I'd be interested if they're getting worse responses from this than some of the more harsh drugs. that are out there in the street. Obviously not fentanyl, because that's illegal of its own. That's deadly just to touch in some cases. But I think it's a very important article, because people who are naive to this, because they don't promote this. You don't know that. You think, the hippie mom is taking their grandkid at that point, if you're a hippie mom, for, it's legal, let's get some marijuana. It's not the same you had when you were in the 60s riding around the Volkswagen minivan to San Francisco. It's a whole different animal. And things that are coming out of it, the psychotic episodes, it's very frightening. And when you tell me 1 in 20 people, when you think about the number of young people now since it's been legalized, okay, that are using it probably more often, and it is stronger than when they started in college or high school or whatever, and 1 in 20 are going to develop psychotic episodes, maybe bipolar and schizophrenia, it's very hard to go back from that.
Joey Diaz talking about the Moon Bar. I don't know why this came to me. He's a big pothead, right?
Oh, geez.
Two of them. Listen, there's a thing called Moon, okay? It's a chocolate bar. It's $10 fucking dollars. $10 called Moon. I've eaten them twice. How long you know me?
Long time. 20 years.
Both times the next day I could not go to jiu-jitsu.
Damn.
Too much. I didn't do much the next day.
They're that strong?
What'd
you do?
I ate the whole bar.
And then what happened?
Dog, you gotta see pictures of me.
How many milligrams is it?
250, but they're lying to you.
So it's funny, but that's kind of what we're talking about.
It's exactly true. And for somebody like that, a hardcore, I assume at one point,
been smoking for
he's
50 years. Yeah.
Right. So it's funny when you have control of it,
right?
But for people who are not aware of this, and they're not telling you this, right? They're not publicizing it to people unless you happen to be in the industry or know stuff about it. And it's very scary for young people, especially when it's legal and you got stupid ass parents out there like, well, it's legal, it must be safe.
Right. When the base of what we thought was the normal, like base level medical marijuana has been improved so much to be something it's not anymore, then that's a problem. Because then all of our scientific studies on marijuana are like, oh, it doesn't affect you because it's base. Right. And then now THC is through the roof. It's like...
And when you add to the fact that it's considered medical, and people are using it to treat issues that mask.
But hold on, that's what I was talking about. Because if the hospitals aren't giving you dosages, because that's not their thing, you can't blame the hospital for...
I'm not blaming hospitals.
It's tough to call it...
I'm blaming the lawmakers for allowing this to be...
It's tough, though, to call it medical marijuana when that's not medical marijuana. It's called medical marijuana that's been altered, right?
It's being used to treat conditions, not just for a social drug.
Right, but see what I'm saying? What's being prescribed is marijuana that we know it, right? Or the doctors or whatever know it. Whereas when you go to a...
No, I disagree.
So you think the doctors know how strong it is now?
Absolutely. They know exactly what that stuff is.
I don't think so.
Well,
I don't think they know. You think if you go to a doctor right now, they'll know how to make THC stronger?
I think there are, well...
See what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't...
You don't want to go down that road, because I can say a lot of doctors didn't even know what was in that vaccine, and they were telling people to take it.
Yeah.
So you're right. Anyone who bothers. But
so that's why when they prescribe something...
But basically what they're saying in this, and I don't know, because I've never had a marijuana prescription, what they're saying is doctors... quote-unquote prescription is just a recommendation. Hey, if you have headaches, go to the dispensary and go get 2 bags and try it. If that doesn't work, do 3 bags, do 4 bags. Here's your card, and go tell them I sent you. That sounds to me like the process based on this article. It's not a strict, when you get an RX, it's a controlled substance, but it doesn't sound like it's coming in in the form of a regulated manner. Because how could doctors possibly be aware of the regulation when you're talking the levels that some of these drugs are at? How could you possibly prescribe that to somebody who has a mild headache?
Yeah, right. Usually, very rarely will you see it in headaches. Usually it's an anxiety thing.
Well, that's what this kid did.
Right?
Right. Or PTSD. Like right, which is... And that's another example of when marijuana even wasn't that bad. How many lives were destroyed because they self-medicated with the milder version over many, many years. Veterans and whatnot, who later developed psychotic episodes, were living on the streets, couldn't hold a job. That's all they had access to, right? Can you imagine now when you have young kids that are taking it for anxiety and stress, which we know they have. We know there's been an explosion of that with young people since lockdowns, right? Depression and whatnot. If you're walking into a dispensary and you're buying this stuff, and now you're doing it regularly because you think you're treating your symptoms,
Right.
this is a problem. They need to be aware. You keep going with this.
The problem with marijuana is the tolerance levels, because from what I'm told, you can build up a tolerance real quick. But
That's what happened to this kid.
Yeah, you build up a tolerance real quick, but the dwindle time for you to get that tolerance back is like 2 weeks. So if you're taking it every day and you're prescribed for it every day, yeah, you're going to become so numb to it that it's not going to matter. So when you start moving up to THC, doing heavy dabs,
Right.
then you're going to have problems, especially if it's that much stronger.
And this is what's been happening, and this is
So
why
you go from light tolerance to I'm going to take the hardest thing possible.
Yeah.
It just goes through the roof. Yeah.
And it's possible
don't know
over
where the
20 years somebody if they did it every day, multiple times, what they're saying is now we're seeing it sooner.
I think the reason that they allowed it, though, is because they weren't seeing that in the base marijuana. Right? Because 50
because
years.
it's changed. Exactly. That's what my point was. When you have these veterans who started in the 60s when they came back from war.
I mean, look
and
at
they
Joey
treated
Diaz,
PTSD.
right? Joey Diaz has been smoking 50 years, does like 200-something milligrams, which is a lot.
He's a large man, too, so he can hold up.
But he's got the tolerance, so...
But then he tries this bar.
And gets messed up.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. So, but again, I just don't know if doctors know that. Say you're a doctor that does have your shit together and knows what's in this, you wouldn't be prescribing something that strong. So that's what I mean. I feel like it's not so much the doctors as much as it is the dispensaries who make it.
Well, they did say that in the article when you walk in, these what do they call them, bud tenders? They're telling you.
That's a great name.
That was
A
the
bud
term.
tender?
The term they used. They're letting people know they're not doctors. This is not FDA approved stuff.
Right.
It's never been tested.
Yeah.
They don't know, how much you should and should not take for a headache versus a migraine versus a tumor.
It's like with steroids. You're not going to.
But steroids aren't legal.
Yeah, they're not
It's
FDA approved.
always
That's
the
why.
difference.
That's why.
Marijuana's been legalized. It's not as controlled
That's
as
true,
in certain
yeah.
states, and that's where it's a risk.
Well, hold on. But even though it's legalized, it's not FDA approved.
Yeah, but that makes it worse
Right,
in
but
the sense that
steroids are legal, and they're just not FDA approved.
you can't. No, I thought steroids were illegal. You can't use
No, you
them
can
in
get
sports.
steroids. You can't use them in
get
sports,
it,
but you
but-
can get. No, steroids are not legal.
Oh, I thought they were illegal to use them to enhance.
No.
But kids can't, right? Like a
Yeah,
high school
there's
player
nothing-
can't be doing steroids and play a sport. Don't they get tested for that?
Yeah, but that's you. It's not like you go to jail for it. You just get kicked off your team. It's not illegal to take steroids. That's only in sports when there's gambling involved.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
steroids have never
I
really
thought
been
certain
legal.
steroids were considered illegal.
Do you think Arnold's not in jail?
No,
for
I'm
it?
not saying that they don't
Yeah.
do it. I just
Yeah.
thought that they were
No, it's not
illegal
illegal to
to
take steroids.
take steroids.
It's kind of a misconception, but no.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as you don't have them. So it's weird. It's kind of a open container sort of situation. Like as long as you don't have them, not so much on you, but like if you're in a car and you have steroids open, it would be considered open container.
Oh,
It's
like
weird.
alcohol?
Yeah. And if you have huge amounts of it. So if you're like to the point where it's like a dealing situation,
Right.
then that's where it's a problem.
Well, I think it's just interesting that I know people in my age group that will say, oh, marijuana is that big deal. It's like smoking a cigarette or whatever. And they're equating it to back in 1987
Right.
and 90 when we whole different substance. And now they put them in cute little gummy bears and they put it in brownies and they put it
The
in
amount of
substances.
stories I see of parents who accidentally like make their
Yeah.
kids lunch
Yeah.
and it ends up being the wrong gummies,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
Right.
That's when, because now you're attacking kids' development period,
Right.
and we don't have studies on that. So not
And the
strong
question
ones.
is why? Why are you making them gummy bears? Why does it have to be a child?
Yeah.
Why can't you do
I'm sure there's
drops or
something to that. I
else?
think there's more to that than we'll figure out here. I think it's more so for the kids that do need it. So it's great for seizures. There's a
But it doesn't have to be a gummy bear.
Right,
if
but
your
when a
kid's
kid-
having
when a kid's-
seizures,
when a kid's taking,
they'll take a gumdrop. It doesn't have to be shaped like a little bear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
That's
it's
what
like,
gets a little
why
silly.
do you make toys have colors on them? It's kind of the same thing. You see what I'm saying? Kids are. It's more like a comfort thing, I believe.
Well,
like they're used to taking regular gummy bears.
I guess so, but if it's a medicinal type of thing, I mean, I
well,
get it.
You make the argument for the meds
the
I take.
Flintstone vitamins are shaped like Barney and Ethel.
Why are my multivitamins gummies? They don't have to be.
Well, I just like to eat gummies myself.
See, it's the same concept.
But it doesn't have to be shaped as little characters.
What they do have to do, though, is make sure that...
But...
Yeah, I like the gummies. What they do have to do, though, to your point, is you have to have a description, not just on a bag, but literally, this is this gummy in my hand right now.
Right.
The actual gummy, this has something in it.
Right.
So when you give it to your kid for lunch, there's an issue.
I think this brings to the attention that everyone lumps, to your point, everyone lumps marijuana in as one thing.
Yeah,
There's
now
real
it's too many
distinctions, right? And these
There's so many
distinctions
things you can
are
do with
very frightening in terms of if you don't know better, and they're out in the open in a case when you walk into, and the bud tender will tell you, "Oh yeah, try a couple of these." What does he know? And again, he may be very knowledgeable. Some of them may be extremely knowledgeable, maybe more so than doctors who don't even know half this stuff. Yeah. But you're risking it on a guy who's not licensed, right?
Yeah.
Who
you really have to go by. It's the same with steroids too. Like doctors are not going to tell you about steroids. They're not going to say, "Hey, take this, whatever." You have to go to some people that have used it before and know what to do.
Right.
Like Larry Wheels is a great example. He's a guy that if I ever had to hop on steroids for, when they asked me to be in the next Marvel movie, I'm gonna have to. But he's someone like I would have to. Yeah, I'd have to talk to that guy. But that's someone I would trust over a doctor because he's done it.
Right, but if you just walk into a dispensary in Colorado or New Jersey and you don't know any better and you're relying on some guy because you say, "I got really bad headaches," he doesn't know if you have tumors, he doesn't know if you have migraines, he doesn't know if you have brain cancer, and he's giving you some incredibly high dosage of, because you say, "I got really bad headaches," and you come out next day and he gives you a higher doses. It's not like, okay, well, that was a mistake, let me sleep it off. They're seeing people become addicted, and it's leading to serious mental health issues. Schizophrenia and bipolar are serious mental health issues. They don't have quote-unquote cures for those things anymore. And you're creating them with something that's supposed to be a drug to help you, which, who are we kidding here? To your point, it's just masking your problems. It's not fixing it.
Yeah.
And people are relying on it as an answer that's leading to a far worse condition down the road. 1 in 20 people developing something that we don't have a cure for that.
The whole argument of this is overdosing yourself. That's basically what these people are doing. They're overdosing yourself.
Ignorance. I think the argument is ignorance. I'm not sure people fully understand.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
what
if you're 18,
taking.
you're not gonna. Yeah.
Kids don't care. They're buying it from a street, and now they're going to dispensaries. But people aren't that. Well, what's the concentration of the THC in this? You're not getting that on a street corner, people.
I guess you can kind of make that argument for a lot of medications, too. Because there's some medication. Yeah. So, at what point do we consider stuff like that a medicated overdose? See what I'm saying?
Well, I was listening to a podcast, I guess it's called a podcast or an interview with some guy. I don't think he was a doctor, but he had a lot of knowledge about all the Adderalls and the stuff that people prescribed when they're younger. And he was in a school, and he says, I go to these schools and I talk to these young kids in high school. How he was allowed to do this was beyond me. But he tells them, do you know, for those of you, and he says, like 30% of you in the room right now are taking, and he lists all these drugs. He wasn't asking them, but he was stating that fact. And he says, do you realize how many of these drugs will lead to psychosis down the road? It's been tested, it's been proven. The kids didn't know it. Now, they were little kids. These were high school kids, so there's some thought process, independent
There's a thought process, but also, I'm sure you're still listening to your doctor at that point.
Doctor/parent. Yeah. But they didn't know this. And now they're high school level. They're not little kids where, you don't give them every detail. But how many of their parents knew this?
Yeah.
Right? That's the question you have to ask. And also, 10, 15 years ago, parents didn't ask a lot of questions. They were desperate. Adderall's going to fix it. They'll take it.
Yeah.
Probably still the case today because there's even more pressure for young people to take. But now there's a whole array of it.
It's a lot safer now because it's not just the one. But all ADD medicine is, for those of you that don't know, it's methamphetamines minus the addictive principle. So.
Some.
Yeah.
There are
so
different
nowadays
right.
you have stuff that
different
it's
options.
Different.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the original one, it was methamphetamine. I don't know if it was Adderall.
You had Ritalin. You had
Ritalin,
Adderall.
I believe, was the one that was.
This is an explosion of it now, and you're right. Some are
I'm
now
talking about when
time
it first
released.
came out. Yeah.
Yes, and there was not a lot of research, long-term research done on these things. These are called, I think they're called, I want to say like hypertropic or some type, meaning having to do with chemicals in the brain, which, we could talk about overprescribing it too. But the point was, there was some research on these things, mainly for more serious conditions and on older people. And the reactions to it was serious. Now, it doesn't mean you don't take this drug, but so many of these young people didn't even know that, and they had already been on these drugs for years. So he was just bringing to their attention that they probably could go home and tell their parents, did you know this? I'm sure many of the parents didn't know this because they're just looking for a cure-all, and their doctor says, oh, this will help calm little Jimmy down, or this will help little Susie focus in school.
Right.
Okay, great. I'll give it to her every day before school. Not realizing those have effects on the child's brain. Mm-hmm. Yes, it does help, but back then it was like a one pill fit all. And nowadays, fortunately, they're trying to find that balance for people, but you got to give people the whole picture here about what it is. And same thing with marijuana now. People think marijuana is a general term. Oh, he smokes marijuana. That means something a lot more nowadays than it did 20 years ago. So I found it very interesting how much that drug has changed. Rapidly changed, and is legal now, and is medicinal.
Legal, and again, legal, but now is being overdosed.
Overdosed or easily accessible for any problem you may have.
Yeah. But I also wonder what stops someone from, let's say I had my card, I can go in, get some kind of marijuana, whatever it is, and then me going home and altering it. Because I wonder, it's a lot easier to do in a... I mean, I guess we are talking out of our asses here because none of us.
Well, I guess, but if somebody really wants to do that, they can. The point is, you got some young people going in with or without a parent, thinking they're treating some issue that they have, their depression, for instance, and that, okay, good, this will help me get through my depression. And as we learned from this young kid, all it did was exacerbate his problem, and he became addicted, and he had to go to something stronger. Oh, good news. We now have something stronger. It's called THC. Take this now, and he winds up having psychotic episodes.
Yeah.
Maybe he still would have taken it if he was that depressed or whatever, but the point is nobody's really monitoring this, and it's getting a little bit... It's getting out of hand, but even more states are legalizing it. You know, it's like they know it's not good. People aren't... Or they don't want to hear it that it's not good. They want to legalize it. States want to make the money from it because they make a lot of money off of it. Medical community, big pharma, they can now market it. They don't even have to go through the FDA process, and they can make money off of it.
Yeah.
It's a sham.
You got another one?
Just the Nintendo one.
Okay, well, before we go into gaming stuff, I did want to bring up GPU. We had a big change in kind of the Bitcoin world or cryptocurrency world. Remember a couple weeks ago we talked about how Ethereum went to proof of stake rather than proof of work?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you if that was a good decision or a bad decision, but at this point, it is not at all profitable to mine Ethereum using GPUs anymore. It would take you...
But didn't they just do something with Ethereum recently?
Right.
They turned it into a currency or something?
Now they turn it into proof of stake rather than proof of work. So with Bitcoin, it's proof of work because we have computers that mine it, even though price is down. But Ethereum said, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. So with my computer or regular GPUs that go in a computer, you can mine Ethereum.
Yeah.
But because they went to the proof of stake, which is... I'll try my best to explain it. I'm not an expert. It's a very dicey how they explain it. But Ethereum, say they have 20 million coins. Right? 20 million Ethereum coins. If I wanted to start a company using a blockchain, I would use so-called pancake coin, or KAKE coin for short. I can go to Ethereum, say I want to buy off you these specifically, let's say 10,000 of that 20 million.
Okay.
Turn it into my own currency, and then that could be used however I want. So I could decide I want to do proof of work.
So Ethereum is worth 20 million less 10,000.
We're not even talking prices. That's just how many coins there are. So
no, I'm just saying there's just 10,000 less.
Because it's used as KAKE coin.
Yes, okay. So you can't mine more. So
I can't mine Ethereum.
10,000 less.
Technically, I could say, hey, you can mine my coin because it's my coin and I get to choose
Oh.
But because it's not as valuable as actual Ethereum, it's very dicey how it works. Like, it's very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that change, which makes sense for Ethereum as a company, for a mining perspective, there's actually no point anymore. So the highest end GPU we have right now is called you have the RTX 3090 Ti, but no one really, if you have one of those, you're not really using it for mining. You're probably using it for like graphic design.
Okay.
The highest one that they have that's actually profitable is the GeForce 3090, which is like the second top tier. The price is $897 for that graphics card right now, which is pretty cheap because the crash from so daily profitability on Ethereum is 4 cents. It would take you 22,433 days to get your money back on that graphics card.
So why?
That's how far it's dropped. Yeah. So they completely killed their mining industry. Pretty bad, honestly. So it's just wild to see a cryptocurrency not fail. The currency itself hasn't failed, even though they have taken a dip. But to destroy your proof of work is kind of wild. So now it's only stake. So now you really only have the buying and selling of those coins. It makes sense, though, when you think about it, because it's probably easier to manage. There's a lot. I won't go into the details of why you do proof of stake over proof of work. But imagine, right, you have that 20 million. You have people coming in saying, I want to take 20,000 of those coins for my own coin. Another guy takes 50,000. Another guy takes 100. Right. Whatever. And then on top of that, you have also people using GPUs to mine and do a separate algorithm to get into that 20. Think of it as having almost like two algorithms attacking one coin overhead. Yeah. Okay. One total coin base. It doesn't really make sense. So it's just very interesting. But the problem with this for Ethereum was because of this change, they dipped real hard over the last couple of days. I don't know what Ethereum.
I did see some article that Ethereum was changing and it went pretty far down.
Right now, it's about a little over 1,000. So, let's see. When was this? So it's always been 1,000. So it never really took that big of a hit. But because there's no more mining, it's kind of weird. What is this?
Crypto in general has been down quite a bit.
Oh, this is just one day. Let me do 6 months. Yeah. So it used to be at 3,000. Now it's about half. Yeah. When was this? This was April. So I don't know what actually caused it to drop. But still, it's wild to see that a drop like that over a business decision. It's a big decision. It's like completely changing your, your business model essentially. So now the bright side of this, as I said or kind of alluded to, is all the graphics cards for us gamers out there are borderline dirt cheap. Like a GeForce 3090 Ti right now is $1,200. That thing started, Mom, at I think retail price was like 18, I believe. So it's down 700.
How long ago was it 18?
Months ago. Well, that was MSRP. So the 30 series came out last December. I believe.
In a year's time.
Yeah, so 1 year. But right with crypto going through the roof at that one point where it was like everyone start mining, and the chip shortage. I mean that $3,000 for that graphics card at least at a minimum. Because remember when we were looking for Michael's?
Yes.
So let me tell you what Michael's graphics card would be right now. Because Michael has a 3060. Michael's graphics card. Michael paid $1,200 for his, I believe, around there, if I remember correctly. Right now.
He didn't think so.
Yeah. I don't even want to bring that up. Sorry, Michael. Sorry about that. But right now, that same graphics card, Mom, is $331. How nuts is that?
Yeah, that's a big difference.
That's 4 times less.
Yeah. And why is this? What's causing this?
Well, there's no point in mining. Because
the Ethereum mining is much, right.
So if you're building a PC right now and you want the highest end PC, and you know you're not getting the new graphics cards, I mean, grab a 30 series for $300, especially if you're hurting on money. Yeah. Right? The 40 series is going to come out next month or 2 months, and those are probably going to be MSRP at like $800 to start, probably, if I were to guess. So
that's a lot of money for some people.
It is a lot, but in the graphics card world, that's not considered expensive.
Right. But that's a lot of money for somebody if they're not using it to generate more money. If they're just
Oh yeah,
using
yeah.
it
Don't
for
get me wrong. Yeah.
entertainment or whatever.
And that's just the
it's-
graphics card. That's not the whole
yeah,
PC.
That's
So
like half a rent for some people.
yeah, no, that's
it's
true.
not all rent for some places.
Yeah.
So it's a substantial amount.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's still expensive, but in
Better
what
than
I'm saying,
$3,000.
yeah, what I'm saying is from what we've had this past year,
Yeah.
I would take an $800 graphics card over a $3,000 graphics card when the $800 one's better.
Gotcha.
See what I'm saying?
It's, yeah. It's,
No, I'm with you, but
yeah.
that was really the only one that wasn't gaming. Everything else for me is gaming. I'll do mine first because we kind of talked about this the other day. I thought this was funny, but and then we'll do your Nintendo one. The Yakuza series will now be called Like a Dragon going forward because that's what Yakuza means. We talked about this the other day. So
Called Like a Dragon Going Forward?
yeah, so the Yakuza games, there's like 20 of them. I've never even played them, but they're a very popular franchise. I think it's literally about the Yakuza. I couldn't tell you what it's about anymore.
Okay.
Right? But I thought it was funny because we talked about this the other day. The Yakuzas, the series will be changed. I think they are a Japanese company. I don't know who makes it. I have to look it up, but my guess is the Yakuza were
Who's
like
the Asian gang you're telling me?
yeah, the Japanese mafia,
Oh, jeez.
right? So they've had this game for-
Japanese. Those Chinese, okay.
They're everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah,
Well,
you
it's
know.
different. Chinese is different from Japanese.
Right, but the Yakuza, mainly Japanese, but they have ties.
Yakuza does
yeah.
sound more Japanese
When
than
you
Chinese.
when you're that big of a mafia organization,
God.
I mean you're everywhere. I'm sure they're in America too.
All right, we got to edit this because they're going to come knocking at our door to kill us.
They can't. But
Have they
they.
dropped-
I'm safe. No. See, now I have to bleep that name out. Good job. Great. Now I have to edit that.
You can edit it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So yes, we do know someone. Anyway, so I just thought this was kind of funny because we talked about this the other day, and then I bet you someone in the Yakuza was like, "Wait, there's a video game about us? We don't want that.
Yeah.
It's not safe.
Okay.
Don't do that."
Okay.
So we'll be called Like a Dragon going forward. I thought that was funny. Now there's again 20 games that you have to change. Change the name.
Oops.
Yeah.
Small marketing, multi-billion-dollar marketing
So,
switch.
do you want to talk about Nintendo? What was your Nintendo one?
Nintendo is bringing back GoldenEye 007.
Oh, they think
Very
Henry Cavill's gonna
popular
be the-
game. No, that's Pierce Brosnan when he was
Oh, they changed it, though?
007. It's the original.
Oh yeah,
the
but I was
old
saying
one
how
from
Henry Cavill. They were talking about Henry Cavill being the next one.
Oh, I know. He's one of many
Now we talk a
people-
little too much about Henry Cavill,
Yeah, I know,
but I love
right?
Henry Cavill, so it's fine.
Well, you
He's a
know.
Warhammer guy. But go
He's
ahead.
got to join your little video
Yeah.
game party thing.
Please.
It's Pierce Brosnan. I'm not familiar with it, but apparently they're going to do a Switch version.
Okay.
Okay, so you can play with other people, obviously, with your
It's
Switch.
GoldenEye, right? You said?
It's GoldenEye 007.
Classic.
There's also going to be an Xbox version, but that is not going to be multiplayer. Okay? There is no official release date. That's all I really know about it, because I wasn't a big fan of it, but I didn't know if you would be like, oh, I remember that game.
I forget which one I had on GameCube, but there was one Kenny and I used to play all the time. We want James Bond games. James Bond.
You did have one in
games.
there. I
Yeah, we
saw
had
when
one
I
the
was
other
pointing it
day. I
out.
couldn't think of what it was. Ours was this one right here. Kenny and I used to play split screen, and I would just mess them up.
Yeah. He's seeing a different
Agent
thing
Under
out there.
Fire was ours. I remember the disc.
I don't know what I did with
But
that.
I forget what the classic one was that came out when like you were a kid.
When I was a kid?
Yeah, there was one.
We didn't have games like that when we were kids.
Uh,
Oh, you mean an actual
Yeah, there was like a famous James Bond.
Goldfinger?
I think GoldenEye was the
Goldfinger
original.
or- Oh, here it is.
GoldenEye.
No, Pierce Brosnan was not an original. He's from the 1990s, 2000s.
Oh,
It's Nintendo 64 James Bond GoldenEye 007.
came out 97. so it wasn't when you were a
07, I
kid.
thought it was 95. It says the 1997 classic will also be re-released on Xbox consoles.
No. See, I like James Bond, but I'm not so big into the game. Some people really like the James Bond series. Like, it's got its own cult. I'm
Yeah.
not one of those. Just like how Henry Cavill's into Warhammer, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Sorry, Henry. But, yeah.
Oh, there you go. Now he's not going to call. He's not going to.
Sorry,
He's not
Henry.
going to play with you.
You loser.
That's just it.
You loser. Stick to Superman, you bum. So, one thing I wanted to talk about
I just want to
was...
take a moment to recognize his mother. fabulous looking woman for her age.
Okay, don't try.
Very attractive woman. Just
I was trying to butter him up.
Shout out to Mrs. Cavill. And how many? 5 sons,
got, like,
6
crazy,
sons.
yeah.
She looks great.
What was I saying? So I don't have an article on this, but Xbox did a huge release the other day. We had the showcases for Nintendo, which looked like shit. PlayStation would look really good, but Xbox did something that was wild for those of you that didn't see it. So remember a couple months ago we talked about what PlayStation did, where basically they said for $120 a year you can play all the games from PS4, PS3, PS2, PS1. So cool. That helped them a lot.
That's a nice idea. Relatively cheap. Well, I don't know how much streaming is. I know games
yeah, so you're game
but...
streaming, so you can't download stuff. It's a little weird.
Oh.
But Xbox dropped the mic the other day. So Xbox said, cool, that's going to hurt, but here's what we're going to do. Now, first thing is, you know that it's so hard to get a PS5 right now.
Yes.
A PS5 is like $900, which is basically the price of a mini computer if you want to. Yeah. And they blame the recession, inflation, whatever, but Xbox says, hey, cool. Our new one, which is their competitor to PS5, the Xbox S, Series X or whatever. Okay. Could be wrong on that. I don't know Xbox anymore. But their newest one, they said, we're not going to raise the price. It's going to stay at like $400, $500. Awesome. For $15 a month, not only will you be able to play any game you want from the Xbox series, so Xbox One, 360, all the classics, you can play any game you want coming out too. So not games in the past, games in the future too. So Modern Warfare is going to be on there, the new one that comes out, the new Assassin's Creed, which is I'm pumped for. We should talk about Assassin's Creed because I want to test you. Assassin's Creed, I forget what else comes out.
You said Modern Warfare. So
yeah, there's a couple other ones on there. Modern Warfare is Call of Duty.
Yeah.
God damn it, Mom, I can't believe you just said that. I guess Battlefield's in there, but that's kind of nuts because here's the thing: Fortnite's free anyway. Doesn't matter. But the interesting thing about that is they're gonna take a financial loss on that, but the amount of people that you are going to bring to Xbox is going to be pretty substantial. That is a insane deal because all the developers decided that games are now going to be $10 more expensive. Mm-hmm. So if it was $60, now it's $70, which when you see a $70 price point, that's pretty steep. As you said, for a game, I mean, given you'll get thousands of hours from that game, $70 is still a tough price point to sell.
Yeah. So
for $15 a month.
Now, is it just for the first year? It's 15, and then it goes up.
As far as I can see, based on their thing, it's just 15.
Because basically, what they're doing is they're doing what the TV stations are doing, the production.
Sure, maybe,
but they're doing these, like Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, Netflix.
Yeah.
Where you pay one price and you get access to all their...
It's a genius idea, but you're going to lose money no matter what, in the sense of you have to bank on having a lot of people, because if games are going up by 70 and you're saying I can play it for $20 a month, roughly, let's say 15, 20.
You would also have to have an Xbox, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't help me if I'm a PS4.
Right, but their Xbox isn't as expensive either. So I guess, it makes sense to do. Completely.
So they're not making the money off the box anymore. They're making the money off the streaming.
Here's my thing. When you think about it, let's say you pay $70 for Call of Duty. Yeah. You're paying $70 one time. Over 12 months, they're going to get you for 12 times 20. So $240 a year.
Yeah.
Which, when you break it down, that's a little less than twice as expensive as the PlayStation.
But I own the game and I can use it anytime.
As much as you want.
However,
now, the
other one I can only
the only
stream.
thing they didn't clarify is if it's live streaming the game or if you're actually downloading the game. That's the only thing they didn't clarify. Yeah. Honestly, couldn't care either way, because for $220 a year, $250, let's just say tax, sure. For $250, I can play whatever game I want.
Right.
In the future, coming out.
Right.
PlayStation, it's half that, live streamed, but you're not getting the new games to play. It's just older games.
Right.
It's a tough
and
call.
also, I mean, gaming-wise, How long do you play one particular game?
Call of
before
Duty,
you're
because
done
it's
and you-
multiplayer, there are people that only play that game. So that might be
But
the
do
only
they play
game you
new
play.
releases, or they play the same game?
Well, every
over and
year there's a
over?
new release. Now it's
Right.
now it's bi-yearly.
Right, but then isn't that caught now with the? So wouldn't that be captured in my monthly fee? When the new
Yeah,
one
so
comes
that's
out?
what. So if you only play Call of Duty, you're better off doing the one time. Just pay the $70. But remember, with PlayStation, Xbox, you have to pay for Live.
Right.
So
Right.
Live is included in that. So
How much is Live by itself?
I think Live. Let's see real fast. How much is Xbox?
I mean, it sounds like
Live?
no matter what, it sounds like a better $70,
So 1 year is $60. So for
$5 a month.
$60 per year, it says $60 per year.
Yeah,
So
$5 a
if you 10 a month for 60, it says 10. Oh, I'm sorry.
$60, yeah, it's
$10
per
a month or 60 per year. So
Right, okay.
you would get the 60 per
Right,
year because
gotcha.
it would be half. So
Okay.
instead of paying 120
Yeah.
every month, you do the 60.
Right.
So
So that's gonna be that saves
if
you
that's
$5
included,
in
so
the
technically,
streaming.
so when you think about it, you're technically paying for a year $15 instead of the 10. So you're really only getting. Well, I gotta figure that one out because.
if you gotta deduct the $5 out of that because that's what you would be.
But you can't do a yearly plan for the other one. It's monthly. So if Live is included, you're adding.
It's $5 for the year.
But you
that's
also
the
get
point.
to play any game that you want. But it doesn't help those people that play multiple games. So
No, it's better for people to do multiple games. If
It
you
is,
only do
it is.
one game,
Yes.
it's
It
I
doesn't
still
make
think
sense.
it's probably well.
you're paying for Live though.
You pay for Live, which we said is about $5. You paid $60 for the year. If you paid up front $60, it's $5 a month.
Yeah.
So you still have to pay that in addition to your $70 for the game, right?
Right. So you're still paying. Yeah. You're right. So if I'm buying multiple games a year, so let's say you spend for 3 games, you're spending almost $200 on games.
Well,
which
and
is
you said
freaking
even if
nuts
you only
to
do
think
one,
about.
it's a $70 game plus the $60 is $130.
Right.
And how much is it for the year?
For the year, it would be $240.
Okay, so it's,
But you're probably
$90
getting more than 3 games when you think about it.
Yeah,
You're
okay,
probably
so then
playing,
right there,
yeah.
as long as you do more than
Like me, I
2
play
games, it's
freaking
worth it.
20 in a month.
Right, but we
Right.
said for some people only play Modern Warfare, and that's all they play.
Right,
It
if
might
you're
not
one of
be
those
worth
people.
it, but
Yeah.
you have options of doing other games then by
Right.
$90 more, right?
Yeah.
$130
Which
versus
sounds like a lot, but when you think of how many new games, like Assassin's Creed's one that's going to be a full price and people will play
Let me
that.
say,
But those
not
don't come out
$90
every.
more. That's $110 more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it's that you have to figure out the pricing and what's best for you, but it's a pretty
Right.
sweet deal either way, especially if PlayStation you still. We're moving to the point where you won't need to buy discs anymore because everything's either going to be live streamed or whatever.
Yeah.
Usually, but this also increases pirating.
I say once you get to 3 $70 games, it pays to do it.
Yeah.
2
And again, I do
games,
probably.
yeah.
I play through just for content purposes. I probably play 10 to 20 every month.
Right.
So it's.
Oh yeah, for you it's.
Yeah, I have to. You'd have to.
Yeah.
I'm on PC, so I get all the deals anyway. Like I can get certain games for $5.
You and Henry Cavill.
Yeah, exactly. Henry and I. Sorry, but I just thought that was really interesting.
Do you get the Superman discount?
Yeah, Henry, pass it around. Oh, this isn't what I wanted. Oh no, this is the. I had
You'll
one more.
even do some of that World of Warfare Hammer, whatever that.
No, he does Warhammer is his thing. I don't know.
You'll even do some of that for the discount.
Yeah. What was the other thing that I was gonna say? Oh yeah, so Assassin's Creed's going back to its roots. So Assassin's Creed back in the day. I don't know if you saw the movie, but
Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, I
I didn't
learned.
see it, but I remember
I learned
it came
something
out.
pretty cool about the Assassin's Creed. There's a lot of lore in games that people don't know, and a lot of people know this one, but the game's changed pretty drastically over the years. It went from like actual stealth because you're an assassin to I'm a Viking god that
Oh,
could just
come
take on
on.
120, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you can just run to 50 people and take them all out.
Well, I guess you have to
Completely
make it interesting
changed.
after a while.
But the blade, so the Assassin's the League of Assassins, which was a real assassination group back in like the early 300s and 800s.
Is it a medieval thing? Assassin's
So
Creed?
it's tough to explain, but it goes throughout the years.
Okay.
And then they have one really cool story in the end that to this day, after 20 games, no one actually knows what it leads to. So
Oh,
one day the last
interesting.
Assassin's Creed's going to... It's nuts, but it annoys people. You have something called the Syndicate? I forget what it's called, but basically the whole concept of Assassin's Creed is usually you're some like archaeologist who, somewhat in the future, but you have this thing where you can find a person's dead body who was an assassin,
Oh.
hack into their DNA to go through what they went through.
Okay.
So people want to get rid of it because the archaeologist has nothing to do with the story. It just pulls you out of the game essentially because you
It's
care
all
about
about the
it's
person's
about the
DNA, and then you take on that person.
you're basically watching through. You're playing a game through someone's eyes.
Okay.
Right. It's people are like, get rid of it. Just tell us the story. But to get rid of that, you lose that whole symbiosis of. It's wild to explain, like,
Yeah,
because when you have
their
20
own thing.
games where everyone to this day is like, what's the answer to?
Right.
Like one day they're gonna tell us, and it's gonna be mind blowing.
There might be a reason why they have the archaeologists.
Right. Yeah, there's something that they're trying to figure out. We don't know what it is, but it's a whole New World Order game. Like that's basically what it's
Oh.
based off of. But one thing I thought was really cool for those of you that don't know is the first Assassin's Creed, they were known for the hidden blade.
Yeah.
The hidden blade's down here,
Right.
right? So
Comes out.
comes
when they
out
inflicts
to
the first-
assassinate someone. In the last 3 games, the RPG ones, they're up here. Do you know why?
RPG.
Well, take a guess. Historically, like just think of it. Why would you change the blade from the bottom to the top? Think about your hand.
It hasn't changed historically.
It has changed because
The hand.
the hand. No, but where they put the knife. So hidden blade used to be below. Now it's up top. Why? The blade is a knife that shoots out, right?
Yeah.
It shoots
like
out
a
to like
switchblade.
here.
So I wanted to go this way.
You want it on
to
top.
punch. More of a punching thing versus a dagger.
Well, yeah, but think about it. Right? Think about why you would rather on the top than the bottom.
Who would rather be on the top than the bottom? I don't know.
I'll give you a hint and I'll tell you the answer. You ready?
Yeah.
All the way you know the assassins is because they only have 4 fingers.
Oh.
They used to cut off their ring fingers. So the first 5
Oh, I didn't
Assassin's
know that.
Creeds.
Okay.
Well, think about it. If you have a knife down low, and it pops out, and you have a finger there, it's going to take it off. So all the assassins.
I didn't realize they were idiots.
Yeah.
This guy.
well, if you're in a fight.
I know, but you would think you'd.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I never
Makes
noticed it, but
sense.
in the first 4 Assassin's Creeds, they're all missing their ring finger, because the knife comes up and the ring finger is the one that gets caught. So
So
and then
it's
later
positioned by
on,
the
the way
ring
you
finger,
knew if
not the
someone was
middle
assassin,
finger? Oh.
even though they moved it to the top, is you would cut off your finger
Oh.
because that's how you would
Yeah,
know.
that was
Yeah.
designed very well then.
Yeah, I mean, well, it takes place in BC.
But it is easier to hide things here than on the outside.
It is, yeah.
Because you don't see
Right.
it as much. That's
Well, eventually it became more of a weapon than an assassination tool, like an extra
they
sword.
pull it out in a
So that's
fight.
what I mean. That's why people wanted to go back to the roots. The new one goes back to the roots where it goes back to the finger being gone.
okay.
This new one takes place in Persia.
Hmm.
It's called Assassin's Creed Mirage, I believe. But
Hmm.
what's also funny is people have been asking to bring back a famous game called Prince of Persia.
Yes, I
And they
remember
were,
that.
Yeah, and they were like, I think they made a movie on that too.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we don't really think that it would bring enough funds in, so how about we just make Assassin's Creed in Persian?
Yeah.
Right?
I think that,
It's
aren't
let's
they trying
just-
to get away from geographic areas and make it more generic?
Well, because of theirs is more because that's New World Order thing. Theirs is very realistic.
Yeah.
So Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The last one was Viking. The one before that was Rome. That's a really cool game because you go through the original New World Order.
Oh.
So like it's the people who, like they're not the real World Order, but you know what I mean. Like
Yeah,
it's
no.
actual people that turn against the crown and no one knew until many years later.
Okay.
So it's pretty neat.
Oh.
It's pretty neat. So I thought that was pretty cool. What else do I have? The only one I had left was I kind of want to talk about before, but Warzone 2. This week we had the big Modern Warfare release. So the new Modern Warfare beta came out where they invited thousands of streamers to visit and play. Still wondering where
I
my
was gonna
invite
say, were you
was, but
invited?
what the hell?
Would you have to go on somewhere? Would you?
Yeah, I
have
think
to
it's
go
California or something, but this is probably it's kind of a big deal because
somewhere? We don't go to California.
I don't know where it was. I have to check, but Everyone was invited but me.
We can only Zoom for California.
Yeah. So they did a big LAN thing, but they made a lot of changes to Warzone. And unfortunately, I grabbed the wrong article. I had the article. Let's see if I can find it real fast. But it's some big changes, so I just want to run through those with the viewers.
I'd be in a lot of trouble if I did that.
Yeah. I can't. Yeah. Fired! I said, do you know the word fired? Let's see if I can name most of them off my head. So, slide canceling is gone.
Yes, we
they
talked
listen
about that,
to us.
and they're doing the dive, the
so,
dolphin dive.
Yeah, now they're moving to dolphin diving. You can still slide cancel, but it's a little harder to do. It's not as easy. DMZ zone we just learned about today, so there's not enough information on that. The other thing that I do like is we don't have to deal with loadouts anymore. So your loadout
Thank God.
Yeah, this is a big deal because one of the biggest problems that Call of Duty and a lot of other games has is called weapon balancing. Mm-hmm. So why would a assault rifle do more damage than a pistol, right? It would, right?
Yeah, it would.
Like when you think about it. But they're terrible about it. So how come sometimes that pistol is stronger than the assault rifles? It's a pain.
Come on.
But now that you don't have,
not realistic.
Yeah. But now that you don't have loadouts, there's no what we call metas, which is like what's the most popular. Like people will share their loadouts so that everyone has the best class. Mm-hmm. Now we don't have that, which is good about loadouts. Right? It's whoever has the better advantage. It's more advantage based.
Oh.
Thank God, because I like my loadouts, but the only reason I like my loadouts is because if I don't have it, I'm screwed against other players because they'll have their loadout. So now that we don't have that, it's more of an even playing field. So basically, all the changes that they've made to the new Warzone is to balance the playing field. Now, this is good, but it's also kind of a cop-out because they don't want to have to deal with balancing stuff. This is their way of saying we don't want to have to deal with the balancing of guns. It's, to a certain extent, it's lazy, but at the same time, it works, so I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Now, here's what I don't like. They added 2v2 gulag. Now, the gulag, remember that meme I showed you, the queen jumping out of the gulag?
Yes.
So when you die in Warzone, you have a chance to come back, and you have a one-on-one with someone.
Oh, that's realistic.
Right. Well, for War, it's better than sitting through a game where you have to watch your teammate play for 45 minutes. Yeah. But they decided to do 2-on-2 gulags. So instead of one-on-one, you get paired with a random person who's not on your team.
Oh.
Now, here's the problem with that. Yeah, so here we go. Instead of dealing with skill-based matchmaking, they said, you know what? Instead of balancing that out, did I tell you what skill-based matchmaking is?
Yeah.
How about I just pair you with some random kid that might not be in your skill group?
Come on.
So now you have 2v2s.
Oh,
if that kid loses, I'm in a 2-on-1 where I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's so stupid.
The other two, do you see the same situation? One's
probably,
a strong player,
but you don't know
weak?
who it's. But what happens if you go up against two strong players?
Well,
and I
that's
got
what I'm
the
saying.
weak thing.
Do they balance it on purpose?
Let's pray to God they do. But either way, I don't like having to manage a second person that I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, what if that kid's 8 years old and I'm
right.
thinking he's not developed. He can't even spell.
That's right.
He doesn't even know script.
He doesn't know script. And he takes cannabis.
Yeah, and he's probably on CBD yet. He's been doing THC since he was 3. So I think that's annoying. Like that's one of those things how you nailed it. No loadouts, better matches, whatever, and then you throw this freaking curveball, and I go, well, now I'm mad. Also, I don't like how there's no small maps. I only play small maps with viewers because, no offense, guys, I don't want to play an hour-long match with you because 5 games in a stream. That's not. I can play 50 games of a small map rather than freaking 4 games of a big map. Right?
But what's interesting is for the weaker player, it's an incentive for them because they might actually have a good experience if they're with somebody who's a stronger player.
It's only for 1 second, right? It's only for one gulag.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just for the gulag.
Yeah. That's kind of silly.
So just for the gulag, if you win, you both go back to your own teams, and I'm gonna decimate you.
But can you carry that person? Like, can a stronger player really help the weaker player?
Yeah, I mean, could I win a 2-on-1? Yeah, but I'd rather not do a 2-on-1. Right?
I thought it was part of the you have to do it to get advanced to the next level.
No, that's so when you die in Warzone.
Okay.
You go to a gulag. If you win that gulag, you can go back in to play with your team.
Okay, gotcha.
Right.
And that's where they pair you up, so you got to win.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if that kid screws me, then I'm out until my teammate buys me back.
Yeah, that's not good.
So it's just annoying. The other thing that I do like is now you have, it's Hunger Games style. So in Warzone now, you have a gas that comes in until there's like no one left. basically. So you're constantly shrinking the map.
Oh, nice pressure.
That's the point, because it just stops. So now you have 3 separate zones. So at the end, they all come to one. Now this is good because the map's gotten bigger. I think it's going to be 200 people per game, which is annoying in my opinion, because that's why you get hour-long games. But
it must go fast because you must weed out the weak people.
You weed out the weak, so that's the benefit of the 3 zones now, because they all come to one.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so you get rid of the. I guarantee you, I'm gonna hate it until I get used to it. But still, it does make the game go faster.
If somebody plays that game and they get out right away because they're terrible, does that mean like the next
back out, start the next game?
But you go on to another game with another group of 200 people?
Yeah, it starts over.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Gulag doesn't start over; it's still the same game.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
So, and then it's last man standing.
Okay.
But the problem with Gulag, as cool as the Gulag is, you only get it once, right? Mm-hmm. After that, your teammates have to buy you back.
Okay.
So they have to find money to buy you back. It's usually fairly cheap. They've actually lowered it. It used to be 4,000.
Well, that's a lot of pressure. You got to be worth them buying you. Otherwise,
Some of
I'll
my
let you
viewers,
sit in that
Mom.
gulag.
Some of my viewers.
I'll let them sit in the gulags.
Yeah. Well, if they win, they come back, right? If they lose, they're just watching me. That's it.
That's
Till I buy them back.
Yeah.
That's the problem with a big map. If you have 200 people on a map and the map is, we don't know how big it is. I mean, we know it is. I just don't know how big it is. Like I haven't seen any gameplay on it really, but it's a pretty big map. Okay. So if you're sitting there for an hour, imagine if you die at the beginning and you're sitting there for an hour, you're gonna see people backing out like crazy. I bet.
Can you drop out and go start another game?
Yeah, exactly. But that screws your teammates, right? Because now you went from 4 to a 3.
Yeah, but if they're stuck in a gulag, how helpful are they going to be to you?
Exactly. That's the downside. That's why I only play what's called Rebirth, where basically as long as one person's alive, you can come back for a certain amount of time. So it starts at, let's say, 10 seconds, so your teammates just have to stay alive for a certain amount of time. You can come back whenever until a certain
I guess it's a no-no to kill your partner in the gulag.
You can't, yeah. Yeah, I can't. 2v1s, I'm just like, boom. Useless to me. But, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I like all the I like the decisions that they made, but there's always that one thing that annoys me. They always do one thing. Yeah, but multiplayer looks good. Everything I saw looked good. I did get to play a very early version of it a couple months ago. So that was nice, but it was more mechanical gameplay. Mechanics feel fine, which I was happy with, but I don't know how much has changed since I touched it. So I'm excited for it, but it is one that we will have to get. Obviously, for me, I have to get as a content creator, but because it's bi-yearly now, it'll last you 2 years. So you'll have updates for 2 years. And we also know that nothing, as far as we know right now, nothing transfers over from Warzone 1 to Warzone 2.
Okay.
Real fast, let me tell you what the problem with Warzone 1 is. So they had 3 games come out, and they merged them together for the Warzone. Now, here's the problem, right? One's a modern warfare, modern. The other one's Cold War. Cold War was a little later. Then you have World War II.
Okay.
So let me ask you something, Mom. What do you think is going to be stronger? A modern-day gun or a gun from the 60s?
Yeah, I'm going with the modern day.
Well, you're wrong. Yeah. It's the other one.
Really?
You have 10 attachments from the Vanguard guns to the World War II.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's because of their piss-poor balancing. So it's riddled with... So every kid who wins games or the best players are using the guns from the newest Call of Duty, the World War II one, because of the strongest guns, because the balancing's so bad.
Oh, wow.
The problem that we all had, and we knew this was going to... Again, another thing that I call, Mother, because I'm just
They're not
sick
listening
with
to
it.
you, Chris. They're not listening to you.
Don't blend 3 games together from completely different time eras and expect everything to be balanced. Doesn't make sense.
That does seem like a weird way of playing it.
Exactly.
I thought they just had one
And the
game
only
throughout.
way you can really level those guns up, Mom, is if you bought the other games. So if you didn't buy those games, every kid who didn't buy those are potentially at a disadvantage because they
only have
can't
the one
level
type
their
of gun.
guns. Yeah, they can't level the guns. They can still grab the guns, but they can't upgrade them fast enough. Like I can jump into multiplayer, which isn't Warzone, and I can level up those guns so I can use them in my loadout.
Right.
Now we don't have to deal with loadouts because they took them out. So now, again, it's lazy because they just don't want to do the balancing and deal with the skill-based matchmaking.
Right.
But it works, so I'm not upset about it.
Okay.
So that's my thoughts on Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2 for those of you curious, which we will be going through the campaign for that when it comes out. I think we still got like a month or 2 before that comes out. Mom, we got that. God of War. It's going to be a big... Mom, I'm gonna need some money.
Yeah.
Mommy, listen, Christmas is coming.
Chris does have a day job.
Yeah.
Let's
Mommy,
clarify that.
Mommy, money, please.
Chris has a day job.
Anyway, we had no questions this week. Now, given it is a little weird because of our timing, and we did Sunday instead of Saturday, so I'm sure everyone's doing stuff and weren't prepared. But I'm done. That's all I had for this week.
That's all I have too.
Episode 12 done. The only thing I did want to say...
in the can. It's in the can.
Only thing I did want to say was I am considering and strongly considering splitting the podcast up from the main channel. We might end up making a whole new YouTube channel for just the podcast.
What?
It's kind of annoying. The problem is it's tough to manage both of those because with that I don't want to just post the podcast. I want to post the clips. Might have to get Kenny on that, which I know isn't his responsibility, but I need someone to do it. It's too much for me to manage at this point because then I have to add a video.
Nothing else to do all day.
I know. Yeah, I just need him to upload the shit. I don't even need him to do the editing. So it's just too much to manage. So it's in the works. I got to find something to do that, and then that way I'll get the third video up on Mondays. Just because I do feel like we burn a video day on Monday, and I don't want to post 2 a day on Monday. On top of the podcast, because usually by the podcast is uploaded, it's already 4:30 about. That's usually when I upload it. Okay. So, yeah, we got stuff to figure out, but be on the lookout for that. Video-wise, I don't know what comes out this week. Gotta look at it. I mean, Monday. This comes out Wednesday, so it's a little dicey. Again, timing super messed up, but we'll figure that out.
Not my fault.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's my fault.
All on you.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, social media down below, promo codes down below, other stream links down below, and other stuff, the Discord server down below, and I will see you guys on Monday. Well, again, this comes out Wednesday, so I'll see you guys Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard. So, good job, Mom.